All right, hope everyone's having a great summer. Thanks for joining today. Alcor is pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar. Alcor is a global cloud advisory and implementation services company serving Fortune 500, government agencies, and other leading organizations in multiple industry verticals across the Americas, Canada, and India. Alcor is also a ServiceNow elite partner. We partner with leading technology companies, including AWS, FireEye, Microsoft, Okta, Incorda, and 3C Logic. We advise leading businesses on cloud platforms, architecture, enterprise service management, and integrating IT service delivery. We also provide business process consulting to capture, re-engineer, and improve processes that can easily be automated to deliver real value. The Alcor consulting team has excellence in business strategy, cloud technology, and organizational change management. Our ongoing webinar series is designed to inform, enlighten, and start discussions within your own organizations. If you require any additional information after listening to today's webinar, please reach out to us through our website, www.alcortech.com. We have time reserved at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions into the questions section of the webinar dashboard. Today's webinar topic is Strategy to Release Value of Your Managed Services Engagement, presented by James Turner. Jim is the director of Alcor's Managed Services Division and has over 24 years of experience delivering IT services, mostly in data center operations, infrastructure management, and SDLC program management. Jim and his global MSP team currently manage over 30 managed services contracts with customers from around the world. I will now turn the webinar over to Jim.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for joining, and excited to see a pretty good group out there that we can walk through our managed service capabilities. So as Jeff said, 24 years of IT service. That'll date me a little bit, but I'll give everybody a brief moment to Google a tape librarian. That's where I started my IT career, worked my way through the system. So excited to be here today, and excited to talk about our managed service capabilities. Bear with me, there we go. So our agenda for today, as Jeff just kind of mentioned, went through the components for Alcor. We'll also talk about what is a managed service partner, go through some high-level items there. We'll talk about some myths and characteristics, right, around the managed service capabilities and methodology. We'll talk about our Alcor methodology, the Alcor Difference, right? How you can work with Alcor, how we can bring value to your company initiatives. And then in closing, we'll talk about a strategy to release value. So first and foremost, let's talk about what a managed service is, right? I kind of went out, thought through this a little bit, and we came up with a pretty good definition of managed services. Right from Wikipedia, right? It kind of nailed it pretty quickly, pretty easily. So, you know, outsourcing is basically the practice of moving some of your company initiatives out to a vendor, such as Alcor, and really allowing that person to manage day-to-day, you know, operations, and hopefully improve, and of course, look to maintaining or, you know, cutting your expenses. So a few points we'll talk about as we continue to go forward is we'll talk about outsourcing itself, really what that means at a high level, and how you can partner with somebody such as Alcor to improve your operations, but also utilize that partner from a strategic and improving, you know, operations standpoint. And of course, cost containment, certainly a big piece that we see in today's business industry, right? Business world, right? The almighty dollar is certainly a piece that everybody's chasing down to see how they can still deliver good service, quality service, normal service, but contain those costs. So our last point here, number 5 on the screen, right, as we continue to move forward, and as I mentioned earlier, working with a managed service versus a partner such as Alcor, right? Alcor is really not a break fix, outsourcing operation. We're going to partner with you at the strategic level down to the day-to-day operations. So a couple of myths, right, about managed services in a lot of client conversations, hallway conversations, elevator conversations, right? We hear a lot of talk in regards to some of the managed services, possible hindrances that you could run into, right? No visibility, lack of control. So if you're working with a managed service provider, you could run into some of these issues that we have listed here on the screen, but working with a partner as we continue to move forward, certainly we'll elaborate on some points to where these become nonfiction, right? So no visibility, lack of control, costs can spiral out of control. We'll talk about that a little bit as we move forward. We'll work with you to develop a statement of work that predefines the costs, so you can certainly forecast and project your OpEx over the next several months, quarters, or year. The next couple bullet points here, intellectual property and knowledge overall. So yes, right, in a managed service world, you can actually not own or lose some of this, but managing or partnering with Alcor as a partner, right, we'll actually work with you to create that IP, and we'll certainly work with yourself, your stakeholders to knowledge transfer over all the information that we have gathered, whether that's process documentation, technical documentation, and that is your IP, that is your documentation to keep even after, per se, the relationship ended. Cookie cutter approach, we certainly understand that there's a lot of clients, customers, accounts out there that you cannot apply a cookie cutter approach, right? You could have different business initiatives, you could have different platforms, right? And what you're operating on. So we're certainly remain flexible from that standpoint, understand your strategy, your stakeholders, your culture, your company overall, and apply a practice and a managed service that certainly meets your needs on a day-to-day basis. Services can become static, absolutely. Is if you look at a managed service provider historically, they certainly just kind of piecemeal, right? Requirements, development, pushed over the fence to the managed service provider, and they just develop and push them back for release. But working with a partner such as Alcor, right, we're going to look to continually improve services, is in ways such as look at trending reports, data on a monthly basis, and continue to look how we can improve our day-to-day operations, right? So managed services are really staff aug in disguise. Now, working with a partner such as Alcor, right, and a couple points that I've mentioned above, we're certainly not going to leave, come in, transition services over to our managed services and then walk away, right? That's truly staff augmentation. And Alcor does operate in that model in some of our engagements, as some of our clients actually request that. But in a managed service partner world, we're actually going to work very closely with you. And as we continue to move forward, we'll elaborate on that a little bit further. Let's talk about a few common characteristics of managed services. So fixed costs for a defined set of services, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, we'll come in, we'll understand, work with your stakeholders, understand your business initiatives, your strategy, your visions, and certainly understand the operations that you want to outsource and provide a statement of work that's really going to give you a fixed cost over months or years, right? And again, help you able to forecast your revenue spend at that time. So we can do this on different levels of service, right? So if we look at a level 1 type support versus a level 3 or an architect role, we can certainly define those costs differently, right? And certainly create a scaling mechanism within our efforts to as your operation grows, we will continue to scale up as needed. Metrics, certainly a key point for any managed services or any vendor, right? So how are we doing? What are we doing? And how often are we doing it? And are we meeting the needs of your clients, right? Your customers. So we'll work on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis to create metrics. Those will just be on our day-to-day operational, such as mean time to resolution, first call resolution, all the way up to value adds, continual service improvement features and such. So certainly a key point, metrics, right? We're all interested in the data in the end. Again, how we are doing and what we are doing. So proactive improvement, when you pull in a partner such as Alcor, we're certainly going to be proactive in a day-to-day basis, right? So we're not just going to come in and develop and release code. We're going to work with you, yourself, your stakeholders to understand how we can get better, understand how you can get better. We'll make those recommendations and really invest in our folks, making sure they're up to date on the most current training, certifications, right? We're taking on that initiative, right, to make sure our resources are certainly skilled and can perform on a day-to-day basis. Kind of relates back to the scaling also, right? As you continue to mature over time, right? So I'll give a quick example. Let's say you implement some basic incident, problem, and change, right? And as you continue to mature and go down the ServiceNow journey, right, you're going to take on maybe HR applications, software asset management, that's an example. And we are going to invest in our staff, right, to make sure they are on the cutting edge of the releases and functionality that's been improved upon by ServiceNow itself. Performance upgrades, certainly part of our responsibility that we'll take on at really a no-cost charge, right? So we'll make sure that your platform is up to the most current release, patch levels, etc. That way, the stability is there on a day-to-day basis for you and your stakeholders, and we assume that responsibility. All right, so getting the most out of your managed services, right? So the Alcor Difference, we have a lot of providers out there, right? I suspect that most folks here on the call have a lot of vendors knocking on their doors on a day-to-day basis. But what is the Alcor Difference? I've mentioned it a few times earlier. It's really about partnering, being a partner of yours, right? So we are going to sit down with you, understand your strategy, your vision, and your company culture, and devise a solution, not just at a level 1 or level 2 support structure, but really from a higher level, again, understanding that strategy and vision, creating roadmaps, and working with you to make sure that we're looking out 3, 6, 9 months in advance, and helping you mature on that platform as we move along. Mutual definitions of success criteria, right? Certainly a key component to being a partner, right? We want to understand what success means to you and how we can help you meet that. Couple examples, right, would be along the lines of, you know, what is your vision for HR, right? We're going to release HR. You know, 3 months from now, we want to make sure that there's some organizational change management as a part of that. We want to make sure that the platform itself is ready for that, and understanding, you know, how we can certainly meet your stakeholders and keep your company initiatives moving. Flexibility and the ability to scale. Additionally, key pieces here from a partner standpoint, and certainly a difference that we can bring to the table. So as you continue to mature and grow, right, so whether that workload is maybe small and all of a sudden we get an influx of requests, we're certainly going to be able to scale over time, right? So Jeff mentioned at the start of the call, we are a global organization. We have onshore resources here in the United States, perhaps a couple other continents, and certainly an offshore team in Noida, India. So the scalability is there, right? We have the resources ready to go at any time, depending on that influx of work. Visibility, as I mentioned earlier around reporting, certainly a key component and something that we pride ourselves on here at Alcor. So the monthly reports that we create, again, first call resolution, mean time to resolution, how many stories, defects, enhancements, incidents we resolved, trending reports, right? How can we dig down deep, understand that data, and improve services on a day-to-day type basis. Investment in people, I mentioned a little bit earlier. We pride ourselves here at Alcor on investing in our people, and really, what does that mean, right? So we are taking the time, the resources, and the revenue to train and keep our resources on the cutting edge of technology, whether that is ServiceNow or other platforms. So you don't have to worry about, do we have the skill set, but you don't have to have the skill set internally. We can do that here, and we do that here on the Alcor side, keeping your investment of managed services in Alcor up to par. Right, so we'll talk a little bit about the Alcor methodology, and one point I do want to, before we get to go through this slide, I do want to talk through is this slide here, and really this webinar is somewhat geared towards the ServiceNow platform. We can, and we do use a lot of the points I previously mentioned around the partnership, the strategy, the vision in other platforms. So this methodology here is really geared towards the ServiceNow platform, but we do offer managed services in the AWS, Azure, and Oracle space. Look for those webinars approaching. So let's talk a little bit about our methodology, right? This is kind of the crux of the operation. And from a managed services perspective, we're going to take in a lot of requests. Those requests can come in via email, service catalog items on your portal, walk-ups, phone calls, right? We'll certainly work with you to define those intake methods. That's really the crucial point, right? Is the requester, your stakeholders are making a request for some type of new services. That could be a defect, an enhancement, could be training, a project, whatever the case may be, right? We're going to intake that request, and at that point, we'll do some triage. And what do we mean by triage? We're really going to make sure that those requirements are sound, right? There could be times when we need to reach back out to the requester just to validate that those requirements are exactly what they're looking for, but certainly the feasibility, right? Should we or can we build it on the platform? Just because a requester is making a request does not mean that we should build it on the system, right? We certainly want to have your best interests as our client in mind, and making sure we're not going to customize you in a way that could hinder future releases, upgrades, etc. So at that point, we'll categorize those requests. And typically, they'll fall into the 4 categories basically we have here on the screen, but certainly could be others. So defects, right? Something that's broke, something's not working, a quick fix is needed on the platform itself. An enhancement, right? Somebody's got a little bit of a wish list and they need a form change, a workflow change, something along those lines. We'll put that as an enhancement. We do see requests come in from a training standpoint, right? How-to questions, right? Please spend some time with me to help me understand how this functionality works, what is the best way to use it, and or at times we do see requests coming in that fall into the enhancement category, but really become a project in the end because they are at such of a large scale. An example being implementation of another application or module integration on the ServiceNow platform. Our developers will then work what we call effort estimates, right? They will take points against each requirement, and then we kind of move into our planning stage after that, and we will work directly with yourselves, your stakeholders, right, to prioritize, right, what makes sense to release first, and we will bundle those into sprints. At that point, we'll do our capacity planning, talk about our release dates, and then move over into the development phase. After development is complete, our developers are certainly doing unit and functional testing. We'll work with your stakeholders, your requesters to do UAT. It could even be guided UAT, right? Because the requesters, they might not know how to use the system in full, but they know that they need some additional functionality. So we'll actually reach out to those stakeholders, work with them to complete UAT to make sure they have a full understanding and the requirements they requested and we developed meet their needs. And of course, if there's any defects, we'll remediate those at that time. And then of course, we move into release. Pieces with release, right? We'll create release notes. We'll communicate out to the end users or user community. Let them know that, hey, this functionality is going to be released on such and such a date, and look forward to the actual code promotion, right? Once the code promotion is released, now we're out there, right? Functionality's there. We'll do some knowledge transfer to the stakeholders or your IT department, and certainly offer post-go live support. All right, so this is really the crux of our webinar here, right? Strategy to release value. So with a managed services partner, such as Alcor, right, it really allows you to offload your day-to-day operational responsibilities to an experienced and skilled partner, such as Alcor, and also allows you to focus on your business strategy, right, or other work activities that you have in your business unit. So let's talk here about quickly talk about some of the ways that bringing in a managed service partner certainly helps you realize that value quickly. So eliminate risk by releasing functionality, right? So let's we talked just a minute ago about defects. So there could be some functionality in the platform that is broken, and instead of waiting 3-4 weeks to release, we can actually develop that code quickly, have it tested, and get it released out into the platform and remediate any risk that could be out there. Connect business units through dependencies. This is actually pretty good. We see a lot of feedback from our clients in regards to now we're starting to see some of our business units work together, right? So we release incident, problem, and change. And all of a sudden we get a request for an integration, right? We want to start seeing some data come into our CMDB, and we can actually now start relating incidents to CIs, right? Or we could start bringing in user type data, and HR now starts connecting to the platform. So as you continue to move down the road of maturity, right, we're now starting to bring in these different business units. They are now talking, using data from one team to the other, and hopefully working at a very fluent pace. Best practice guidance, as I mentioned earlier, right? We invest in our resources on a consistent basis, keep them trained up on the latest and greatest releases, accreditations, and courses that are available by ServiceNow, right? You can rely on us to provide that skill set, the right skill set, and provide you that best practice guidance, right? So building out the roadmap, helping you down your journey and maturity path of the ServiceNow platform. Maintain constant system ability, right? We will take up the responsibility for making sure that you're on the latest and greatest releases of ServiceNow. And but also patch levels, certainly a crucial piece. There could be some functionality that was noticed early in a release, and we will certainly make sure the recommendations and the patches and releases have you up to date at the most constant basis. Control costs, we talked a lot about costs earlier, right? Control costs. We'll come in and find a set of services and put a defined cost around that. But from a release value standpoint, right, you don't have to go out and actually request a big bang approach to releasing some functionality, right? Once that approval is made, we can do the development, and it actually allows you to release quicker and at a smaller bundle perspective, right? We don't have to lump that into one major release. Promote and maximize the platform quicker, right? So a lot of functionality in the ServiceNow world. We talked about some software asset management. We talked about HR integrations and such, right? So releasing quicker, sooner, certainly allows your company to maximize and promote that platform overall, right? Because now we have, again, different business units working together, a lot of different information coming in from different areas. So in the end, right, all the bullets kind of wrapped up, you're certainly going to appease your customers and receive good feedback. And just recently in a conversation with a client, we did a lot of organizational change management, a lot of development around many different facets of the platform, and it certainly provided an opportunity to get good feedback from the users, right? So functionality was there, the data they needed and such. So, right, the strategy to release is certainly crucial, and utilizing a managed services such as Alcor allows you to do so. So Jeff, I think at this time, this moves us over to questions. You have anything from, give everybody maybe a quick moment to raise their hand?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Jim. Very good information. Nice presentation. Yeah, we do have a few questions, so we'll get to them in just a minute here. As a reminder, please use the question section to ask a question on today's topic. So first question, Jim, is how does Alcor initially assume operations?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, and yeah, it's an absolutely key question. So what we'll do, right? We just don't want to come in and assume operations, right? We want to come in. We want to understand your business initiatives, your business strategy, your business vision. So we'll meet with folks that operate on a day-to-day level, possibly all the way up to your C-level, right? So to understand the hardships, the issues that the day-to-day, managers, senior managers are facing, what they want to accomplish, but also at the director, VP, or C-level, the business strategy and vision. So we'll come in, we'll meet with all those folks. And certainly conduct knowledge transfer sessions, maybe even some shadowing, and put together a proposal that certainly would hopefully meet your needs. And then over time, we typically look at a 30, 60, 90-day type transition period, right? So we'll take a look at the first 30 days. What did we do well? What did we do? Where could we improve, right? And we'll continue that for about roughly a quarter, to make sure we dial in the services just right.
Okay, awesome. You talk a lot about driving down costs. In such a competitive market, how does Alcor do this?
Yeah, that's another fantastic question. I like our audience today. So cost containment, right? Driving down costs. It's certainly a major part of the business world that we all live and breathe on a day-to-day basis. So being global, right, being a global company, we can certainly look to offshore capabilities, which certainly helps us from a cost containment standpoint. We can blend some rates together, right? We don't have to come in. We don't have to come in and just look at this rate for this person, this rate for this resource, this rate for that resource, right? We can certainly look to blend those rates together. But again, also pull in our offshore capabilities to help keep those costs at a minimum.
Right on. Does Alcor have other models of delivery outside of managed services?
We do. Another fantastic question. I mentioned staff augmentation earlier. So part of our managed service offering is not just coming in and assuming some operations on a day-to-day basis. We can provide staff augmentation resources, right? So we'll give you that resource. You can manage that resource on a day-to-day basis, right? And then we'll just do, let's say, monthly check-ins to make sure that things are going the right way. But on the other side of that also, we certainly offer what we'll call project implementations from our PMO side of Alcor, right? So if you were interested in implementing some base functionality, right? You're new to the ServiceNow platform. You want to implement, let's say, incident problem change. Our PMO side can certainly come in and help from that aspect.
Right. Just last question here, so I'll just
I was
throw
going
it
to
out
say we have
again.
pretty good audience with
Yeah,
a few questions here.
exactly. So I'll just throw it out again. If anyone's got a question, please use the dashboard, the question section of the dashboard for today. So where does the Agile plugin reside? On Alcor's platform or the client platform?
Interesting. And yeah, Jeff, I might have missed that point actually. So let me back up real quick one step for everybody that's on the call. We talked relatively about the ServiceNow platform here. So we do utilize the ServiceNow tool itself, right, to maintain our requests, stories, sprints, and such, right? And we utilize the Agile 2.0 plugin for some great functionality, full transparency out to the user community. We can do that one of two ways, right? We can utilize our client's instance to maintain our intake, our requests, our stories and sprints, or we could do it on the ServiceNow side of Alcor. So either way, right, we can assume the ownership, the responsibility, and the initial investment, right, here on Alcor, let you operate on our platform, or we can certainly do it on the client themselves.
Right on. All right, well then that's it. That's all the questions we've got. So good job. Thanks, Jim. Thanks everyone for attending. The recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, www.alcortech.com. We will also send everyone attending today a link to a recording via email. So thanks everyone for joining. Enjoy your summer, and we will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.